Renting or buying. It is one of the biggest financial decisions most Australians will ever make, and in 2026, the answer is not as simple as it used to be, because property prices are high, rents are high, interest rates have moved significantly, and what worked for the previous generation may not work the same way today. So in this video, I am going to break it down simply. We will look at the real costs of both options. We will look at the financial pros and cons of each. And by the end, you will have a much clearer picture of which option makes more sense for your situation. Part 2, before we compare the two, let's be honest about something. There is no single right answer. Renting is not automatically throwing money away, and buying is not automatically the smart move. The best choice depends on your personal situation. It depends on your income, it depends on your savings, it depends on how long you plan to stay in one place. It depends on the city you live in, and it depends on what stage of life you are at. So, instead of telling you one is better than the other, I am going to walk you through the real financial picture of both, and then you can decide what makes sense for you. Part 3. The real cost of renting. Let us start with renting. The obvious cost of renting is the weekly or monthly rent payment. In Australia in 2026, rents in major cities are high. In Sydney, renting a one-bedroom apartment in many suburbs can cost anywhere from $500 to over $600 per week. In Melbourne, similar properties can range from $450 to $550 per week. In Brisbane, rents have increased significantly in recent years. A one-bedroom can range from $400 to $500 per week in many areas. In Adelaide and Perth, rents are generally lower, but have also risen. Now here's what most people say about renting. You are paying someone else's mortgage, you are not building equity, and you have nothing to show for it at the end. And there is some truth to that. But renting also has real financial advantages that people overlook. You have flexibility. You can move for work or lifestyle without the cost and complexity of selling a property. You have no maintenance costs. If something breaks, the landlord fixes it. You have lower upfront costs, no stamp duty, no conveyancing fees, no building inspections, and if you are renting and investing the difference between what renting costs and what buying would cost, you may actually be building wealth in a different way. This is sometimes called rent investing, and we will come back to this. Part 4. The real cost of buying now. Let us look at buying. The upfront costs of buying are significant. We covered this in detail in our last video. But to summarize, you need a deposit, usually around 20% of the purchase price. You need to pay stamp duty, which varies by state, and can be tens of thousands of dollars. You need legal and conveyancing fees, and you need to cover building inspections and moving costs. Then, once you own the property, the ongoing costs include mortgage repayments, council rates, water rates, building insurance, strata fees if applicable, and maintenance and repairs. These ongoing costs can add up to significantly more than most people expect. Let us look at a simple example. On a $1 million property in Sydney with a 20% deposit, your loan would be $800,000. At a rough interest rate of around 6% per year, your monthly repayments could be around $4,700 to $5,000 per month. That is over $1,100 per week just in mortgage repayments, before rates, insurance, and maintenance. Compare that to renting a similar property for perhaps $500 to $600 per week. On the surface, renting looks much cheaper in the short term, but buying has a long-term advantage that renting does not. Equity. As you pay down your mortgage and as property values change over time, you are building an asset. Part 5. The equity argument. The biggest financial argument for buying is equity. Every mortgage repayment has two parts: interest and principal. The interest is the cost of borrowing money. The principal is the part that reduces your loan and builds your ownership of the property. Over time, as you pay down the loan, you own more of the property, And if the property value also increases over time, your net worth grows. This is the core wealth-building argument for buying. In Australia, property has generally increased in value over long periods, though this is not guaranteed, and it varies significantly by location, property type, and timing. But for many Australians, buying a home has been one of the main ways they built wealth over decades. Part 6 now. Let us talk about an option that sits between renting and buying. It is called rentvesting. Rentvesting means you continue to rent where you want to live, and you buy an investment property somewhere more affordable. This way you get the lifestyle flexibility of renting and the asset-building benefit of owning property. It is not right for everyone, but it is worth knowing about because in expensive cities like Sydney and Melbourne, many people cannot afford to buy where they want to live. Rent vesting lets them enter the property market in a location they can afford, while still living where they choose. Part 7. Rent investing. Another option worth understanding is what some people call rent investing. This is where you rent your home and invest the money you would have spent on a deposit and the higher mortgage costs. For example, instead of putting $200,000 into a property deposit, you keep renting and invest that money into a diversified portfolio. The argument is that over the long term, a well-diversified investment portfolio can generate strong returns and give you more flexibility than property. This strategy can work well for some people, especially if they are disciplined investors, but it requires real financial discipline because renting without investing is genuinely throwing money away. The key word is investing the difference, not spending it. Part 8. So which is better? Here is a simple framework to help you decide. Buying may make more sense if you plan to stay in the same location for at least 5 to 7 years, you have a stable income, and can comfortably service the loan. You have saved a solid deposit, you value stability, and want to build equity in your own home, and you are emotionally ready for the responsibility of owning property. Renting may make more sense if you value flexibility and may need to move in the next few years. You are in an early career stage and your income may change significantly. You cannot yet afford to buy in the area you want to live, or you prefer to invest your money in other asset classes. Neither choice is wrong. Both can lead to good financial outcomes, if done with intention. Part 9. Here is the most important thing I want you to take away from this video. The worst financial outcome is not renting, and it is not buying at the wrong time. The worst outcome is doing nothing. Whether you rent or buy, the key is to be intentional with your money. If you rent, invest the difference. If you buy, manage your mortgage wisely and avoid overextending, because in the long run, it is not whether you rent or buy that determines your financial future. It is what you do with the money you have. So, renting versus buying in Australia in 2026. Which is better? The honest answer is, it depends on your situation. Buying gives you equity, stability, and a long-term asset. Renting gives you flexibility, lower upfront costs, and the freedom to invest differently. Both can work. Both can fail. What matters most is making an intentional financial decision based on your own situation, not based on what everyone else thinks you should do. If you found this helpful, subscribe to Aussie Wealth Simplified and comment below. Are you currently renting or buying? And which do you think is the better move in Australia right now? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.